The dorm leader is a hypocritical green tea who loves to use, for your own good, as an excuse to do unscrupulous things, relying on her family being the largest local real estate developer. She enjoys humiliating others with a condescending attitude. The night before the civil service exam physical, when everyone had to fast, she secretly added high-concentration honey to everyone's thermoses. In my previous life, I caught her and forced the whole dorm to dump and rewash their cups, saving 2 roommates who passed the exam, while she alone drank hers and got eliminated from the physical. Afterwards, she posted on social media, twisting the facts to accuse me. I was just trying to be considerate and make sure no one fainted from hunger, but she made a huge fuss and scared me so much that I couldn't perform properly. My good intentions were completely wasted, and those roommates whose futures I had protected, in order to beg for the half-price internal housing from her family's real estate company, all sided with her in unison. Exactly, what's wrong with adding a little honey? The dorm leader was just being thoughtful, worried we might go hungry. She's the selfish one, always trying to steal the spotlight and ruin the dorm's unity. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the night before the physical examination. Watching her stealthily squeeze the stringy honey into my cup, I remained silent, since well-intentioned advice only blocked your path to wealth and promotion. Then in this lifetime, you shall drink every last drop of this fatal blessing that ruins your future. At 2:17 a.m., the shaking of the bed jolted me awake. My eyes still closed, the beam from the phone flashlight swept across the edge of the bed and settled on the silver thermos cup on the nightstand. Lin Jiaojiao tiptoed closer, barefoot on the concrete floor. She pulled a 300-gram jar of high-concentration baking honey paste from her pocket. I slightly opened my eyes to see the packaging clearly. She unscrewed the cup lid, squeezed in some honey and stirred, then closed the lid and climbed back into bed. The whole process took less than 40 seconds. Wang Qing on the opposite bed turned over, causing the bedboard to shake. Lin Yan on the upper bunk pressed the phone screen. The light flickered on and off. They were awake and had seen it too. Wang Qing turned her head to stare at me. She was waiting for me to throw off the covers, stand up, and tear off the facade. To be the one who offends others by stepping forward. That's exactly what I did in my previous life. Back then, I threw back the covers and pointed at Lin Jiaojiao, cursing her fiercely. Wang Qing and Lin Yan said they didn't see anything. Lin Jiaojiao wiped away her tears, claiming I was framing her. 3 people teamed up to get me to the counselor's office. In the end, I was the one who got the public reprimand, and I was the one labeled as a bully. This time, I pulled the blanket over my head and turned to face the wall. Let whoever wants to step up do it. It certainly won't be me. I waited for 40 minutes, their breathing steady and rhythmic. I sat up, my bare feet touching the floor, picked up the thermos, and went into the bathroom. Locking the door behind me, I poured the honey water down the drain. I filled the cup with mineral water, wiped the outside dry, and placed it back in its original spot. Everything was restored to normal. I lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow, the show begins. The alarm rang at 6:30 in the morning. Lin Jiaojiao was the first to get up. After washing up, she stood in the center of the dormitory and clapped her hands. Sisters, today is the physical examination. Don't be nervous. I specifically added throat-soothing honey water to everyone's cup last night. Drink a cup on an empty stomach. It warms the stomach and eases anxiety. Get up and drink it. She spoke with a smile. Wang Qing sat up, turned to look at me, then glanced at Lin Yan, who also tilted her head to look at me. I know what they're waiting for. They're waiting for me to stand up and ask who touched the cup, waiting for me to get angry and accuse someone. Then they'll stand by Lin Jiaojiao's side, saying Jiaojiao meant well. I remained silent, sitting up to unscrew the thermos and tilt my head back to finish the water. The pure water slid down my throat. I placed the empty cup on the table. Thanks. After uttering just one word, Lin Jiaojiao paused for a second before curling the corners of her lips into a smile. Wang Qing opened her mouth and then closed it, her hand pausing mid-air. She hadn't expected me to drink it so readily. Then I'll drink too. She picked up the honey water, frowned, and took 2 sips, forcing a smile at the corner of her mouth. It's so sweet. Thank you, Jiaojiao. Lin Yan raised her glass in agreement. Jiaojiao is really so thoughtful. Unlike some people who keep a cold face every day, enjoying kindness without even being able to say thank you properly. Lin Yan turned her head and glared at me. I turned around to pack my documents into my backpack without looking back. Lin Yan raised her voice. I'm saying, Shu Qing, can you stop acting like the whole world owes you something all day long? Jiaojiao stayed up late to prepare throat-soothing water, and you can't even squeeze out a single thank you. Are you even human? Wang Qing chimed in. Forget it. Forget it. Shu Qing is just like that, used to being on her own. Jiao Jiao, don't take it to heart. The implication was that I was unsociable and immature. Lin Jiao smiled and said, it's fine, Shu Qing is just nervous, I understand her. What a beautiful act. 1 playing the tough role, 2 playing the gentle ones, surrounding me from 3 sides to isolate me. I zipped up my backpack and pushed the door open to leave. Lin Yan lowered her voice behind me. What's she pretending for? She'll be crying when the physical exam results come out. I curved the corner of my mouth, waiting for the results to come out. Someone would cry, but it wouldn't be me. The examination hall of the Municipal First People's Hospital was packed with candidates. People from all 7 examination districts in the city formed long queues, occasionally glancing at their watches, sighing, and looking around restlessly. The number of people eliminated during the civil service exam's physical examination was greater than those eliminated in the written and interview stages. Combined, team leader Teacher Chen stood at the front of the line, holding a loudspeaker and speaking sternly, scanning the crowd with a serious expression. One final reminder, no consumption of any sugary foods or beverages, including honey, fruit juice, and energy drinks, is allowed within 12 hours before the physical examination. If abnormal blood sugar levels are detected, it will be considered falsification, resulting in immediate disqualification from employment and a record in the integrity file. Is that clear? Yes, we understand. The crowd responded in unison. Standing in the middle of the line, I turned to look at Lin Jiao and the other 2 ahead. Wang Qing's face turned pale, her hand pressed against her chest as she gasped for breath. The high-concentration honey was quickly absorbed on an empty stomach, causing her heart to race, her hands to tremble, and cold sweat to break out, her body beginning to sway. Lin Yan's forehead broke out in a layer of cold sweat, his legs trembling as he leaned against the wall to support himself. Jiao, why do I feel a bit dizzy? Wang Qing tugged at Lin Jiao's sleeve, her voice trembling. Lin Jiao patted the back of her hand, a smile curling at the corners of her mouth. It's nothing, just low blood pressure. You'll be fine once the blood draw is over. Trust me, what I prepared for you is all good stuff. There won't be any issues. Good stuff. I twitched the corner of my mouth. Drinking 300 grams of honey paste on an empty stomach can send your venous blood sugar soaring above 20. If this were a good thing, arsenic could be sold as a health supplement. After calming the 2 of them down, Lin Jiao turned around, took out her phone, and tapped the screen. I followed the direction she had just looked in and shifted my gaze. In front of the station to the right of the blood-drawing area, a male nurse wearing a work badge was lowering his head to fiddle with a test tube rack. The screen of the phone on the table next to him lit up. He lowered his eyelids to look, then nodded in this direction. If I hadn't experienced this once in my past life, I would have definitely missed that gesture. I withdrew my gaze and looked elsewhere. So she had more than just the honey trick up her sleeve. Next group, numbers 0371 to 0380, proceed to blood draw station 3. The nurse called out the numbers while holding the list. Lin Jiao linked arms with Wang Qing and Lin Yan, stepping forward with her voice raised high. Don't be afraid, don't be afraid. I'm here with you. My nutritional supplements will protect you all, and will definitely make it through smoothly. Several examinees around them turned to stare. What great roommates. What a warm dorm leader. I walked at the back of the group, keeping a few steps away from them. Lin Jiao walked ahead with her head held high, leading the 2 unsuspecting people straight into the trap. People in the blood draw area lined up and stepped forward one by one. Here, the needle determines each person's fate. Wang Qing was the first to sit in the blood draw chair. Her arm trembled, and her hand clenched the hem of her skirt. The male nurse walked over, tied the tourniquet, and tapped her vein. Relax, it'll be over soon. The needle pierced the skin, and blood flowed through the soft tube into the test tube. The male nurse withdrew the needle, applied a cotton swab, and placed the test tube on the rack. The process proceeded without any abnormalities. Wang Qing pressed on the puncture site. As she straightened up, her legs trembling as she forced a smile at Lin Jiao, Lin Yan followed suit, sitting down to complete the procedure. After drawing blood, the 2 of them gathered around Lin Jiao to thank her. Lin Jiao reached out and hugged them both. All right, the hardest part is over, the rest is just going through the motions. It was my turn and Lin Jiao's. She tugged at me, urging me to draw blood first. Shu Qing, you go first, you don't look too well, get it done early so you can rest. I glanced at her and sat down in the blood-drawing chair. The male nurse walked over, scanned the barcode on my wrist, and picked up the corresponding test tube. As the needle went in, I sensed Lin Jiaojiao stepping forward. She leaned against the nurse's station, her medical record book resting on the edge of the counter. I didn't turn my head. After drawing 2 tubes of blood, the nurse turned and tossed the cotton ball into the medical waste bin. In the blink of an eye, I caught a glimpse of Lin Jiaojiao's finger twitching out of the corner of my eye. The movement was lightning fast, and then everything returned to normal. The nurse walked back and applied a cotton swab to me. All right, hold it for 5 minutes. I pressed my arm and stood up, moving aside. Lin Jiaojiao sat down on the blood-drawing chair, rolled up her sleeve, and smiled at the nurse. Thank you for your help. After drawing blood, she stood up and paused as she passed by me. I turned to look at her. Lin Jiaojiao was tilting her head, staring at me. The corners of her mouth lifted into a cold smile. Her eyes were fixed directly on me. A thought popped into my mind. I'm done for. I hugged my arms, trembling. What on earth did she do? Lin Jiaojiao put away her smile and walked back to Wang Qing and Lin Yan. Let's go. Time for the next item. Don't dawdle. I stood in place, holding the cotton ball. I still couldn't figure out what step I had missed. For the morning's physical exam items, I just followed instructions and moved around, getting my vision checked, doing an ECG and an ultrasound. I signed off on each item one by one. Lin Jiaojiao hummed a tune all the way, helping the team leader move chairs and hand out forms. She glanced back at me from time to time, the corners of her mouth curling upward. Watching her smiling face, I gritted my teeth. After the physical examination items were completed, everyone returned to the lobby to await the preliminary screening results. I sat on a plastic chair in the corner, repeatedly recalling the scene during the blood draw, her hands and the medical record book, her smiling face staring at me. What step did I miss? At exactly 2 in the afternoon, the atmosphere in the lobby suddenly became very oppressive. Hundreds of people were crammed together, yet it was so quiet that they could hear each other's heartbeats. When the leading teacher, Ms. Chen, walked out of the physical examination center office, her face was dark and extremely unpleasant. She clutched a stack of A4 papers in her hand, her steps heavy, and the sound of her leather shoes tapping on the marble floor was piercingly loud. Everyone's eyes were fixed on that stack of papers. Quiet. Teacher Chen stood at the front of the line, his voice piercingly cold. The preliminary screening results are out. I'll now read the names. A stifled gasp echoed through the hall. Wang Qing gripped Lin Jiaojiao's arm tightly, her nails digging in until they turned white. Lin Yan was so nervous that her lips trembled uncontrollably. Teacher Chen opened to the first page and began reading the names. Number 0371, Wang Qing. Wang Qing's body trembled violently, her face instantly turning deathly pale. All indicators normal. Preliminary screening passed. Wang Qing was stunned for a full 3 seconds, then burst into tears with a loud wail, hugging Lin Jiaojiao tightly. I passed. Jiaojiao, I passed. How is this possible? I suddenly raised my head. She drank 300 grams of high-concentration honey water on an empty stomach. Her blood sugar couldn't possibly be normal. Absolutely impossible. Number 0372, Lin Yan. Teacher Chen turned to the next page. Lin Yan froze completely, even holding his breath. All indicators are normal. Preliminary screening passed. Lin Yan's legs gave out on the spot, and he knelt on the ground, crying with tears and snot streaming down his face. Thank you, Jiaojiao. Thank you, Jiaojiao. You're my living bodhisattva. Your honey water really works. They hung on Lin Jiaojiao, one on each side, crying with immense relief and excitement. Lin Jiaojiao stood in the middle, slightly raising her chin as she accepted their gratitude. She turned her head smugly, her gaze passing over the crowd and landing precisely on my face. Shu Qing, she called out with a laugh, her voice brimming with the superiority of a victor. See, I told you, the things I prepared for you would never go wrong. I wonder what result your cup yielded. A few clueless examinees around joined in the laughter, whispering among themselves. I tightened my grip on the armrest of the chair, saying nothing. Teacher Chen continued reading the names one after another. Pass. As she went further, the number of people on the list grew smaller, until she flipped to the last page. Teacher Chen's finger pressed heavily on the paper and stopped. She raised her head, her gaze filled with intense malice, and looked straight at me in the corner, past the crowd. There was no sympathy or pity in that gaze, only naked disgust and anger, completely treating me as the black sheep that had tainted the entire team. Shu Qing, her voice echoed through the empty hall, each syllable delivered with immense force and weight. Hundreds of eyes instantly focused on me. Come here. I stood up, my legs a bit stiff, and walked through the crowd to Teacher Chen. She slammed that A4 paper in front of me, where a very exaggerated number was circled in red marker, venous blood glucose, 19.8 moles/L. The normal fasting blood glucose upper limit is 6.1, 19.8 is more than 3 times the normal value. Your venous blood glucose is as high as 19.8. Teacher Chen read out word by word, his voice loud enough to be heard throughout the entire hall, far exceeding 3 times the normal value. This constitutes a serious act of falsification and disciplinary violation. Physical examination, failed, disqualified. Sure enough, the trajectory of my past life has already changed. She mistakenly thought I had drunk the honey water, and now she wants to drag me down to compete for that single provincial level position, but this is as far as her thinking goes. Teacher, I raised my voice, and the hall fell silent. I request a re-examination. The team leader frowned. Su Shuqing, the data is right here in black and white. 19.8. What do you think a re-examination will change? It will change everything. I held up the receipt, my wrist steady without the slightest tremor, because from early this morning until now, I haven't had a drop of water or a speck of sugar. A healthy person who has fasted for over 12 hours cannot possibly have a venous blood glucose level of 19.8. This value is only found in individuals with severe diabetes, or, I paused for a moment, my gaze shifting past the teacher to fix on Lin Jiaojiao, or in someone who deliberately consumed high-concentration honey before the exam. The crowd in the hall gasped in shock. Lin Jiaojiao's lips trembled. Her face drained of color. She quickly snapped back to reality, her brows furrowed, the corners of her eyes drooping, and she put on a deeply pained expression. Shu Qing, her voice quivered, if you refuse to admit your mistake, that's one thing, but how could you turn around and slander your own roommate? I added honey for everyone last night to nourish the stomach, not just for you alone. Wang Qing and Lin Yan both drank it, so why are they fine? That's right. Wang Qing straightened her back and shouted at the top of her voice. We all drank it, and we all passed. You're the only one who exceeded the limit, and you still have the nerve to blame others. Lin Yan nodded vigorously. Exactly, teacher, don't listen to her nonsense. She just wants to drag us down with her. Just call security to have her escorted out and not waste everyone's time. The lead teacher rubbed his temples and was about to speak when a middle-aged man hurried over from the end of the corridor. He wore a name tag on his left chest identifying him as the deputy director of the physical examination center, and he was Lin Jiaojiao's uncle. As soon as he appeared, Lin Jiaojiao released her tightly clenched fingers, her shoulders relaxed, and she let out a sigh of relief. What's going on? Her uncle asked, puffing out his chest with his hands clasped behind his back. What's all this commotion about? It's completely inappropriate. The team leader stepped forward to explain the situation. My uncle took my report and glanced at it, then looked down at me with a slight tilt of his head. The value of 19.8 is clearly stated. The equipment at our center is standardized and uniformly procured across the province, so there is absolutely no margin for error. He threw the form onto the table. Young man, it's understandable to have emotions, but being unreasonable will only make things more unpleasant. Exactly, what's all the fuss about? Could the machine possibly be lying? Just admit it already. Aren't you ashamed? Everyone chimed in agreement. Lin Jiaojiao stood behind her uncle, head lowered, with a slight smile at the corner of her mouth. It was exactly the same expression she had when she squeezed honey into my cup at 2 in the morning. I took a deep breath and stepped forward. You're saying the machine isn't wrong? I asked calmly. All right, I also believe the machine can't be wrong. The mistake isn't with the machine. I turned my head, my eyes fixed intently on Lin Jiaojiao. The one at fault is the owner of that tube of blood. The entire room fell silent instantly. Lin Jiaojiao, I enunciated each word clearly. The tube of blood with my name on it was drawn from your arm, wasn't it? After a dead silence lasting 3 seconds, Lin Jiaojiao's facial muscles twitched, her eyes widened, revealing the fear of having her secret exposed. You're slandering me. She raised her voice and shouted, what evidence do you have? The uncle's face turned ashen. He took a step forward and pointed at the door. Enough. Security, escort this candidate out. The broadcast system in the halls suddenly sounded. Interrupting his words, a male voice came from the speaker. Announcement: the 3rd Inspection Team of the Provincial Commission for Discipline Inspection and the Joint Expert Group from provincial-level tertiary hospitals are now conducting a special inspection of this medical examination center in accordance with the law. All personnel on site, please remain where you are and cooperate with the inspection. No one is allowed to leave. The announcement was repeated twice. Uncle's legs went weak. His body swayed, and he barely managed to steady himself against the wall. Lin Jiaojiao's mouth fell open, and the smile on her face vanished completely. I stood in place, hands in my pockets, looking up at the people entering through the hall entrance. There were 6 of them. Among the 6 were 2 officials from the Discipline Inspection Commission and Supervision Commission, followed by 2 experts from the Provincial Hospital's Inspection Department. At the very back were 2 armed police officers, standing on either side of the hall's entrance and exit. The lead teacher froze in place, lips moving but no sound coming out. My uncle let go of the wall, straightened up, and stepped forward with a wide smile on his face. "Oh, dear leaders," he greeted them, rubbing his hands together. "Why didn't you give us a heads up beforehand? I could have arranged a proper reception." "No need." The team leader at the front, his face stern, brushed past his outstretched hand and fixed his gaze on me. He walked up to me. "Comrade Su Shuqing, that's me. 3 days ago, the provincial department received a real name report letter alleging that there were irregularities in the local civil service examination physical checkups. The whistleblower is you, correct?" Everyone turned their gaze in unison. Wang Qing's mouth fell open, and Lin Yan retreated 3 steps in a row. Lin Jiaojiao stood frozen in place, her eyes wide open. I usually have no background, so when she bullied me, I could only endure it in silence. She never expected that I would directly report her to the provincial department. "It's me," I nodded, pulling out a voice recorder. This voice recorder was placed under the leg of the dormitory desk last night. I pressed the play button. The sound of Lin Jiaojiao twisting open a thermos and squeezing honey came from the recorder. This was followed by the noise of Wang Qing turning over and pressing down on the bed board, and the sound of Lin Yan turning on her phone. All 3 of them were awake at the time, all present, yet not a single one spoke. The recording continued playing the conversation after waking up in the morning. "Sisters, time to get up. I specially added honey water to each of your cups last night. It tastes so good. Jiaojiao, you're so thoughtful, unlike some people who usually act all high and mighty and look down on others, but when it comes to taking advantage, they're faster than anyone." Wang Qing's face flushed red, and Lin Yan's lips trembled uncontrollably. The most damning part was the final recording. It was a call Lin Jiaojiao made to her uncle from the bathroom. She thought we had all gone out, but the voice recorder was still running. "Cousin, it's all taken care of. That woman surnamed Su had something added to her cup, guaranteed to send her blood sugar through the roof. Yes, Xiao Kai knows what to do. Yeah, don't worry, it's seamless." The recording ended, and the hall fell into complete silence. The team leader turned to look at the stunned uncle. "Seal all blood samples from today immediately, retrieve the surveillance footage from the blood drawing station, and notify the public security authorities." Before he could finish speaking, the male nurse wearing a mask fell to his knees, his nurse's cap tumbling to the side. "It wasn't my initiative," he cried, tears and snot streaming down his face. "It was Lin Jiaojiao who transferred 50,000 yuan to me, telling me to switch the tubes during the blood draw. She said if anything went wrong, her uncle would cover it." "Shut up." Lin Jiaojiao rushed over to cover his mouth. The male nurse, emotionally overwhelmed, kept spilling secrets. "And those 2, Wang Qing and Lin Yan, their blood is fake too. It's not their own blood at all. Lin Jiaojiao told me to take 2 tubes of normal blood from the blood bank, label them with their names, and send them for testing. Their real blood sugar levels would definitely not pass." Wang Qing's eyes rolled back as she collapsed to the ground. Lin Yan fell to her knees. The team leader glanced at them. "On-site re-examination." I extended my arm, and the expert performed a fingertip rapid blood glucose test for me. The instrument displayed the result. The screen showed the number 4-5. The data is normal and indisputable. The experts then performed on-site rapid venous blood draws for Wang Qing and Lin Yan separately. Wang Qing leaned against the wall, trembling. "Wang Qing, venous blood glucose 16-3, Lin Yan, venous blood glucose 17-1. The expert closed the record book and looked at the team leader. These 2 numbers were ironclad evidence. They had consumed high-sugar substances before the physical examination. Their preliminary screening results were all achieved by passing off normal blood from the blood bank. The team leader directly announced the decision. Wang Qing and Lin Yan, found to have participated in cheating during the civil service examination physical examination, verified as true, in accordance with Article 34 of the Civil Service Recruitment Regulations. The 2 individuals' eligibility for recruitment is revoked. At the same time, the violation will be recorded in the Civil Service Examination Integrity File, which is networked nationwide. Lifetime ban from applying for any civil service or public institution positions at all levels. Upon hearing the lifetime ban, Wang Qing's eyes widened in shock. She opened her mouth and wailed, her voice growing louder and louder until it turned into a hysterical scream. She suddenly sprang up, her eyes bloodshot, and lunged at Lin Jiaojiao. She slapped Lin Jiaojiao across the left cheek, causing the onlookers in the hall to avert their eyes and shrink back. Lin Jiaojiao, you bitch. Wang Qing's nails left bloody scratches on her face. What do you mean it's for our own good? What do you mean honey is good for the stomach? You knew perfectly well that drinking it would exceed the limit. You never had good intentions from the start. You were just using us as a shield. You just want us to cheat with you so you can drag us down with you, so when things blow up, you'll have someone to take the fall for you. I didn't. Lin Jiaojiao covered her face and shouted, I really did it for your own good. Bullshit. Lin Yan rushed forward and grabbed Lin Jiaojiao's hair, pulling it down. You should have been alert when you said you asked the nurse to help us exchange blood. When have you ever been kind to others, Lin Jiaojiao? Every single thing you do is calculated. You're nothing but a venomous snake. The three of them tumbled to the ground, wrestling in a tangled mess. They tore at each other back and forth on the floor. Wang Qing was sitting on Lin Jiaojiao, slapping her, while Lin Yan was kicking and stomping on her from the side. These three former good roommates were now locked in a fierce fight. Armed police stepped forward to separate the three. Lin Jiaojiao's hair was disheveled, her face covered in scratches, and blood was trickling from the corner of her mouth. Despite her disheveled appearance, she still glared angrily with a fierce expression. What do you think you are? She struggled and shouted with all her might. I am the eldest daughter of the Lin family's real estate business. My father knows people in the provincial government. You won't come to a good end. Just you wait, my father won't let any of you off. The team leader said nothing, picked up the remote control, and turned on the TV in the hall. The TV was playing the morning news. Earlier, everyone had been busy with the physical examination and hadn't watched the news. Following an investigation by the Provincial Commission for Discipline Inspection and the Provincial Supervisory Commission, Lin's real estate group is suspected of serious illegal and criminal activities, including massive bribery, falsification of engineering quality, and illegal fundraising. Early this morning, the legal representative of the group, Lin, has been taken into criminal custody in accordance with the law. In the footage, two plainclothes officers escorted a middle-aged man with his hands cuffed out of the villa. That was Lin Jiaojiao's father. Lin Jiaojiao stared intently at the screen, her lips turning pale, her facial muscles twitched uncontrollably. Dad, Daddy. Her voice grew fainter and fainter, her eyes rolled back, and she fell backward to the ground. No one at the scene went to help her. Cold water splashed down, and Lin Jiaojia convulsed all over. She opened her eyes and stared blankly at the ceiling. Then, she remembered everything that had just happened. Her father was arrested, the company was sealed, the scam was exposed, and her face was covered in bruises. She pursed her lips, and tears slid down her cheeks. She pushed herself up from the ground and stared straight at me. She furrowed her brow, her eyes filled with resentment and confusion. Why, she asked hoarsely, you're just a poor student. How could you possibly have the provincial inspection team at your disposal? How could you? I crouched down to meet her gaze. Do you think I only started preparing last night? I lowered my voice. A month ago, when you were bragging in the dorm about your uncle being the deputy director of the medical examination center, I had already taken action. Lin Jiaojiao widened her eyes. All the things your uncle did, helping people alter medical reports, accepting money to sell passing spots, engaging in illicit benefits with private medical examination institutions. Do you think just because you don't say anything, others won't be able to find out? Her lips trembled uncontrollably. I spent 3 days compiling a complete set of whistleblowing materials based on the information you revealed: time, location, amount, the person handling it, including the house number of the property your uncle bought under an alias. Impossible. Her voice trembled. You couldn't possibly know these things. I smiled without explaining, unable to tell her how I obtained the house number for that property. In my previous life, after being disqualified, I refused to accept it and spent 2 years investigating until I uncovered everything, but at that time, I was blacklisted, and my reports went unanswered. No one paid attention to the accusations of a former offender who had falsified records. 2 years of hard work turned into a box of materials that no one cared about. In this lifetime, I simply sent these materials out ahead of time. I bypassed the city. Because your father has connections there, I sent the materials directly to the Provincial Disciplinary Commission's real name reporting mailbox, I said calmly. As for last night's honey, I paused. That was just a stage I set for you. Lin Jiaojiao held her breath. I knew you would take action. I knew you would add something. I knew you would switch the tubes, because people like you, given the chance, would never let go of anyone they could trample underfoot, so I did nothing. I poured out the honey, drank the pure water, and waited for you to walk right into the trap. You set me up." Her voice cracked. "No," I corrected her, "I just didn't stop you. You were the one who wanted to jump." Lin Jiaojiao completely broke down. She lunged forward, wrapped her arms around my legs, clutched my pant legs tightly, and kowtowed repeatedly. "Shu Qing, I beg you, please let me go. I'll give you my half-price apartment for free. I'll give you money, as much as you want. I'm begging you. Don't let them take me." She was crying and sobbing, her face covered in dirt. The eldest daughter of the Lin family was now lying at my feet. I looked down at her. In my past life, I would have softened, would have cried and said to let it go, would have thought that endless revenge only breeds more hatred. Then she stepped on me even harder, completely losing any chance to turn things around. But I am not the Su Shuqing from my past life. I kicked her hand away. "Take your poisoned honey." I bent down to look at her, "and go feed the mosquitoes in jail." Two police officers stepped forward, each taking hold of Lin Jiaojiao's arms from either side. Handcuffs were fastened around her wrists. Her uncle was also handcuffed, his face ashen, head bowed and shoulders slumped. The two were escorted out the door. Lin Jiaojiao kept looking back at me, her lips moving without making a sound. I paid no attention. The onlooking examinees began to applaud vigorously. The team leader walked up to me, his face flushed red as he bent down and bowed. "Su Shuqing, I'm sorry." I didn't respond, just closed my eyes and listened to the applause around me. The applause that was a lifetime late finally sounded. 1 month later, I stood at the entrance of the personnel bureau, holding the employment notice in my hand. It read, "Su Shuqing, ranked first in the comprehensive assessment, is officially hired as a civil servant for the provincial government." I saw my reflection in the glass door, standing tall and confident, no longer shrinking back as I used to. The Su Shuqing who would rather be poisoned than speak up was left in the past. I took a deep breath and pushed the door open. On the same day, Wang Qing and Lin Yan squeezed through the dormitory hallway, dragging their luggage bags. The school issued a disciplinary notice for seriously violating examination discipline and relevant national regulations by participating in civil service physical examination fraud, which has caused an extremely negative impact. The school disciplinary committee has decided to expel Wang Qing and Lin Yan from the university. The relevant materials have been simultaneously submitted to the Department of Education for filing. They have neither graduation certificates nor degree certificates. Their 4 years of university were completely wasted. A passing junior stopped to take out her phone and take a photo, causing Wang Qing to pause her packing. "What are you taking a picture of?" She stood up and shouted. The junior ran away, and the post she shared on her social media read, "These two are the ones who got caught cheating and were publicly shamed across the province. Ha ha ha, it's all your fault." Lin Yan shouted at Wang Qing, "If it weren't for you dragging me to drink that awful honey water back then." "Bullshit, couldn't you have just said no?" Wang Qing shot back, "You have the nerve to say that about me. What about when you were fawning over Lin Jiaojiao the most? Why didn't you say that then? You're the one who fawns. Don't you know what kind of person you are?" The two of them got into a physical fight in the hallway. Passing classmates only took photos and walked around, with no one stepping in to stop them. They hurled insults at each other for 20 minutes, and in the end, each picked up their luggage and went their separate ways. Wang Qing returned to her rural hometown, but her family, which favored sons over daughters, couldn't accept a daughter without a diploma. Her mother said over the phone, "It's perfect timing. Wang Dazhuang from the neighboring village hasn't found a wife yet. His family is offering 180,000 yuan in bride price." Lin Yan, burdened with online loans, went to work at an electronics factory. She stood on the assembly line for over 10 hours every day. The foreman had a bad temper and yelled at her every day. They brought all of this upon themselves the moment Lin Jiaojiao entered the detention center. Her life was completely ruined. The prosecutor's indictment recommended a combined sentence of 5 to 7 years for her multiple crimes. The most devastating blow was the collapse of Lin's real estate. Her father was arrested, and the company's accounts were frozen. Creditors and suppliers come to the door every day demanding payment, while workers protest with banners outside. All the houses and cars were seized, and her mother fled abroad overnight with her younger brother. Her 23 years of privileged life were wiped out overnight. In the detention center, there was only unpalatable food and fierce inmates, with no more followers at her beck and call. On the third day of Lin Jiaojiao's imprisonment, she was cornered in the bathroom by female inmates in the same cell due to her tone of voice. The inmates forced her head down and made her drink foot-washing water, causing her to bend over and vomit uncontrollably. Here, the title of the Lin family real estate heiress became the source of trouble. A month later, she began to show signs of mental instability. She huddled in a corner, talking to herself in the air. "Let me add some honey for you. It's sweet. It's for your own good. I'm doing this for your own good." Her father and cousin were eventually sentenced to 11 years and 8.5 years respectively for multiple charges and served their sentences in prison. A male nurse named Kai Ming was sentenced to 3 years and had his professional license revoked. After being released from prison, he was unable to find any work related to healthcare. Good and evil will eventually be repaid. Those who weave their own cocoons will inevitably be trapped. The day before I was scheduled to report for work, I went to the police station to sign some supplementary documents, and the procedures were quickly completed. As I was leaving, a female officer called out to me, "Sister Sue, that Lin Jiaojiao, she's not in a good mental state right now, and she's been causing a lot of trouble inside. Would you like to go see her?" I thought for a moment and nodded in agreement. Through the glass, I saw Lin Jiaojiao. In less than 2 months, she had aged dramatically. Her hair was disheveled, her cheeks sunken, her cheekbones prominent, and her eye sockets hollow. She sat on the edge of the bed, holding an enamel mug. When she looked up and saw me, her eyes went blank. She jumped up from the bed, ran to the glass, slapped her hands against the window, and pressed her face against the pane. She grinned widely, drool trickling from the corner of her mouth without her even noticing. "Eat candy," she said to the glass, her voice hoarse. "Want some candy? It's sweet, so sweet." She raised the enamel mug and struck the glass, laughing more and more joyfully. "Eat it, it's for your own good." I stood outside the glass, quietly watching her. In the past, she wore a hypocritical smile, meticulously scheming against others. Now, only her mad words and actions remain, repeating the behaviors of the past. These 4 words used to be her shield, but now they are just her meaningless muttering. After standing in front of the glass for a moment, I turned and left without looking back. She doesn't deserve sympathy. My phone received a text message from the personnel department of the unit. "Comrade Su Shuqing, welcome to your official reporting tomorrow. Your workstation and access card have been prepared in the office. Our entire department is really looking forward to working with you." I looked at the screen and smiled. Opening WeChat, there was a group chat with my college roommates in the contacts list. The last message in the group was from the early morning of the day of the physical exam, sent by Lin Jiaojiao. "Go to bed early, my darlings, and do your best on the physical exam tomorrow. Love you all." I frowned at this message and decisively clicked delete and exit. I then proceeded to delete the WeChat contacts of Wang Qing, Lin Yan, and Lin Jiaojiao. I cleared out all the phone numbers that had ever made me soften my heart. Putting away my phone, I lifted my head. Turning the corner, I saw the office building where I would report tomorrow. In my previous life, I could only see it on TV, but in this life, I was about to step inside myself. I walked forward steadily. The meaning of rebirth is not revenge. That's just a side task. The true meaning is to reign in that boundless soft-heartedness, to watch others perform with a cold eye, and to give them a push at just the right moment, leaving the rest to fate. The road ahead is long, and from today onward, every step I take will be for myself alone. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. In my previous life, my mother secretly gave me a chicken leg. Avoiding my younger siblings, it was the first time I had eaten a chicken leg since Chen Mena was adopted. At that moment, I was overjoyed. However, when I woke up again, I was on a bus heading to the countryside. I had only a few scattered coins on me, along with a letter from my parents demanding that I obediently go to the countryside, but I had just been accepted into the capital art troupe. Ignoring organizational discipline, I desperately tried to figure out what was going on. After enduring hardships to return home, all I received was a slap from my father without a word of explanation. That's when I found out that Chen Mena had taken my spot in the cultural troupe, and I had to go to the countryside in her place. I couldn't accept it. I was their biological daughter, and I already had a place to go. I argued my case, but my father broke my back with a military baton. He said, "Nana's parents are no longer here, so we must take extra care of her. You are our biological daughter, so of course you should set an example and take the lead." At this time, I was forcibly sent to a remote countryside. Before I could even pack my luggage, I was assaulted by a thug who barged in. Struggling, I was strangled to death alive. Opening my eyes again, the familiar chicken leg was once more handed to me. Jianing, Quick, try it and see if it's tasty." My mother held a chicken leg in her hand, and without a word, she stuffed it into my mouth. At the border fortress, his eyes kept darting toward the door, as if afraid of being seen by someone. The chicken leg was glistening with oil, its skin crispy and golden, exuding a rich aroma, a rare delicacy in these times. Even in our household, we could only afford to eat it once a month at most. My fingertips were icy cold, and my heart was pounding wildly. Just 1 second ago, I was still in a damp, cold cowshed, my throat crushed, my vision swallowed by darkness, pain like a bone-deep parasite, embedded in my soul. I had actually been reborn. I was reborn on this evening when my mother, avoiding my younger siblings, secretly slipped me a chicken leg to eat. In my previous life, I thought my mother had finally remembered me, and I joyfully accepted this chicken leg, moved enough to forgive all the injustices she had once inflicted upon me. I thought there was a place for me in her heart after all, until I woke up on a shaking bus, with only $3.60 in my pocket and a letter from home telling me to behave. I couldn't understand what was going on, especially since I had just been accepted into the cultural troupe. In just 2 more days, I would have been able to report to the cultural troupe. I jumped out of the car and managed to run all the way home, only to be greeted not by a reasonable explanation, but by a sudden slap from my father. My ears rang for a long time from the blow, and only then did I learn that the spot in the cultural troupe I had worked so hard to secure had long been given to Chenmena, whom they had adopted. I argued my case, insisting that I had signed up and fought for it myself, but my father said, "Mena's parents were national heroes. We are raising her on behalf of the country. If we push her out now, where would that leave my reputation? Going up to the mountains and down to the countryside is a national policy. As the biological daughter of a leader, you must set an example. Or do you want your younger brother to go to the countryside? He's still so young, and he's the only male heir in our family. If he goes, what are we supposed to do?" He pointed at my nose and scolded me harshly, saying I didn't know how to share their burdens. But my job in the cultural troupe was already settled. Chenmena's household registration wasn't even in our family to begin with, and as an orphan with both parents deceased, she would naturally be taken care of by the state. Her situation is well known to everyone, and it's unlikely that anyone would give her a hard time. "Bastard, stop making excuses. I'll teach you to make excuses." His military baton came down hard on me, knocking me unconscious on the spot. As I finally came to, I heard my mother's worried voice. "Old Chen, you didn't break her, did you? If she's broken, how will she work to earn work points in the future?" "Don't worry, I just hit her in the waist. It won't affect her ability to work and earn work points. She just won't ever dream of joining the cultural troupe to dance again. You tell Mena that the job in the cultural troupe is hers. Chen Jianing won't dare compete with her for it in this lifetime." It was then that I understood. In their hearts, I would never be able to compare to Chen Mena. In a daze, I was once again shoved onto the bus heading to the countryside. The pain in my waist was so intense that I could hardly straighten up the entire journey. I thought my life might just pass by in a daze like this, but who would have thought I wouldn't even get that chance? In the mud brick cowshed, before I could even unpack my luggage, I was pinned to the ground by a few rough-looking men. They humiliated me for 3 days and 3 nights, and in the end, they twisted my neck until I died. Even in death, my spirit watched helplessly as they divided up all my belongings, only learning from their conversation that this was the hometown of Chenmena's father. Chenmena had already written letters to these people long before I arrived. At that time, my parents were still in the courtyard, caring for Chenmena in every detail. I was indignant, I was unwilling. A great sense of resentment enveloped me, and I wished I could devour them all. And now, I actually have the chance to personally seek revenge. "What are you standing there for?" my mother said impatiently, shoving the chicken leg into my hand. "Hurry up and eat it, then bury the bones when you're done." I sniffed it with my nose and couldn't help but laugh. In my past life, I was so immersed in the joy of my mother's affection that I never noticed how strong the medicinal smell on this chicken leg actually was. "What's wrong with you today, child?" I shook my head and stuffed the chicken leg back in. My voice was surprisingly calm. "I'm not hungry." Mother froze, as if she hadn't heard clearly. "What did you say?" I said. "I'm not hungry." The grease stuck to my fingertips, sticky and disgusting. "This chicken leg should be left for Mena. She's frail and needs more nourishment." She couldn't help but widen her eyes, then immediately grabbed my hand. "You silly child, I saved this especially for you." Saved it especially, more like deliberately drugging. "Right, hurry up and eat. Mom knows you've been resentful since Mena came, thinking I don't care about you, but you're Dad cares about his reputation. Mena isn't our biological child, so we have to pay extra attention to her. We can't let outsiders gossip. She had said things like this many times before. Mena's parents were both heroes who sacrificed their lives for the country. I must take good care of the daughter of heroes. Mena is not in good health, so I should be more accommodating to her. Mena has a gentle nature, so they need to plan more for her. I shouldn't take it to heart every time. I understood them, to the point where, step by step, in my constant concessions and compromises, I even ended up sacrificing my own life. Hurry up, eat, I promise your dad won't scold you today. She pushed the chicken leg into my hand again. I knew I had to eat this chicken leg today. No matter what, if I didn't eat it, she wouldn't feel at ease. I had no choice but to take it, enduring the strong medicinal taste as I swallowed the chicken leg in a few bites. In an instant, a smile bloomed on her face. My mother patted my hand and said, "All right, go play for a while, we'll have dinner soon." I nodded hastily and immediately retreated to my room. Thanks to Mena's affectation of wanting a room with sunlight, I had to give up my room to her. Now I live in the northernmost storage room, which is drafty in winter and damp and cold. It's less than 5 square meters in total. Besides the bed, there's only enough space for a writing desk. The clothes could only be piled on the floor. I locked the door behind me, grabbed the military canteen I had used for years, unscrewed the cap, and began to force myself to vomit. After a few attempts, the chicken leg I had just eaten was completely expelled, trying to use the same old trick to make me fall asleep and dump me in the countryside. Dream on. In this lifetime, no one will ever make me a stepping stone for Mena. I tightened the lid of the kettle and pushed it to the deepest part of the bedboard. Then, I took out a needle and thread and quickly sewed the admission notice onto the clothes I was wearing close to my body. After finishing up, I took off my outer clothes, slipped into the cold bed, curled up facing the wall, and began to sleep. Not long after, the door opened. "Jenning, it's time to eat." My mother spoke softly at the door, her voice tentative. I remained motionless. Footsteps quickly approached the bedside. I could feel her gaze lingering on me until she was certain I was truly asleep. She began rummaging through my room, starting with tidying up the clothes. Soon, she started rummaging through my desk. She went through almost everything on the desk. Not long after, she hurriedly ran out. Old Chen, I couldn't find that art troupe's admission letter, couldn't find it." A crowd of people surged into my room, rummaging through here and there without pause. Suddenly, a faint cry broke the silence. "Dad, Mom, could it be that my sister found out in advance about your plan to have me take her place in the cultural troupe, and she didn't want to? So she hid the admission notice. She wouldn't dare." My dad, Chen Weigua, blurted out without a second thought. My mom immediately hugged Mena and said gently, "No, she won't. We've all agreed not to tell her, so how would she find out? This place is tiny, and she hasn't stepped out all day. Once she leaves tomorrow, even if she hides things one by one, Mom will find them for you. Come on, Mom specially made chicken soup for you today. Let me get you a bowl. You need to nourish yourself well. Once you start working, it'll be tough." "That's right." Chen Weigua nodded along. "Even if she really hides it, Dad will figure out a way to get them to reissue it for you." "Exactly, sis. You know how capable Dad is," my brother chimed in. Mena finally broke into a smile through her tears. The family huddled together and went out, filled with the joy of a scheme about to succeed. In fact, even before I had left, they had already started celebrating for Mena. I listened to them discussing how to get me into the car, how to phrase it to make it more convincing, as if I weren't a person, not their daughter, but a tool to be manipulated at their will. In my heart, there was no longer a trace of anger or resentment from being betrayed or abandoned. After a long while, until all was silent, even the barking of the dogs in the courtyard had ceased, and there was not a sound left in the house, I slowly sat up from the bed. I didn't light the lamp. By the faint light seeping through the window, I silently put on my thickest set of clothes and slipped into cloth shoes whose soles were already worn thin. I noticed a bundle at the foot of the bed, stuffed haphazardly with a few pieces of clothing. Heaven help me, though I was being sent to the remote northwest. The clothes they packed for me were all summer wear. All my documents and the signed notice for my rural assignment were also inside. I stuffed all my documents, along with the dozen or so dollars and a few pounds of national grain coupons I had saved by scrimping and saving, into the small bag I carried with me. Pushing open the window, I slowly climbed out. Without pausing, I crouched low in the shadows along the wall and quickly slipped out of the compound. Avoiding patrols along the way, I headed straight for the train station. Train tickets these days have to be bought in advance. Chen Weigua had said earlier that I didn't need to worry about it, But he never gave me one, so I guess he never intended to buy me a ticket. Fortunately, I had checked the schedule in advance, and there happened to be a northbound train around 3 in the morning. I waited for a while in a corner of the waiting hall, then squeezed into the crowd and boarded the train. With a long, hoarse whistle, the green train slowly began to move. I wandered back and forth in the carriage, avoiding the conductor's ticket check several times. I didn't dare to sleep, only occasionally closing my eyes to rest against the conductor's small compartment in the carriage. After enduring like this for over a day, the train finally arrived in the capital. Carrying my bundle on my back, I suppressed the confusion in my heart as I faced the unfamiliar city. Following the address on the notification letter, I inquired along the way and headed to the cultural troupe to report. However, just as I found the corresponding office and took out my identification and admission notice, I was restrained. They repeatedly examined my notice and various documents, their brows furrowed tighter and tighter. Chief Chen was right on the mark. The person who stole his daughter's documents actually dared to come here to report. My heart sank heavily. What did you say? The other person looked me over with a stern expression. No wonder you dared to steal the admission notice and documents of Chief Chen's daughter. You even managed to get a letter of introduction. Were you so sure of your own qualifications that you thought we wouldn't recognize you and would let you stay? A profound sense of absurdity washed over me, and my fingers trembled uncontrollably. Steal, they actually said I stole my own admission letter and documents. For Chen Mena, they really will stop at nothing. I took a deep breath. In that case, let's call the police. What did you say? She stared at me in astonishment, her eyes widening involuntarily from the shock. I said, I demand to report this to the Public Security Bureau. I repeated, enunciating each word clearly. I, Chen Jianing, the biological daughter of the Chen family, have come here to register with my legally obtained admission letter. Now, I am being accused of stealing someone else's admission letter and documents based on a baffling telegram, and I may very well be detained or even imprisoned. I suspect that someone within your cultural troupe is taking advantage of this situation to seize my position. I must report this to the Public Security Bureau. I demand that you investigate the origin of this telegram, hold you accountable for slandering and defaming me, clear my name. My words shot out like a rapid-fire barrage, instantly stunning everyone in the office. Of course, I knew this telegram had nothing to do with them, but right now, this was the only way I could have a chance to stay. The person in charge finally snapped to attention. This is absurd. She slammed her hand on the table, furious. This is the telegram sent from your home. No, from Chen Jianing's family. What reason would we have to slander you? I don't know what reason you might have, but I am Chen Jianing. My father is the deputy commander of the Haiqing military district. If it wasn't you who harmed me, could it have been my own parents? Or do you think anyone would dare impersonate the daughter of a deputy commander? The office was dead silent. The person in charge opened his mouth but couldn't say a word. Seeing her unmoved, I turned and walked out. Since you can't explain clearly, let's go to the Public Security Bureau and talk it out. The comrades in the capital's public security will give me justice. I also want to see clearly who is so desperate for my job position that they would resort to such despicable means. They immediately became anxious and hurriedly stood up to intervene. During the argument, they inadvertently caught the attention of the relevant leaders of the cultural troupe. Upon learning that I might be a fake Chen Jianing, Deputy Director Li of the cultural troupe frowned deeply. After staring at me and pondering for a long time, he suddenly said, according to what you're saying, you're the real Chen Jianing. Then you must remember the teachers who were in charge of the recruitment exam back then. I thought for a moment and said, my father inquired about it back then. The two teachers in charge of the recruitment were one responsible for vocal music, Teacher Wang, and the other for dance, who I believe was surnamed Zhao. Deputy Director Li nodded and asked someone to invite the two teachers over. Soon, the two teachers were brought in. At Deputy Director Li's request, they both looked at me, their brows slightly furrowed as if trying to recall. I stepped forward and bowed to the two teachers. Hello, Teacher Wang, Teacher Zhao, I'm Chen Jianing from Haiqing. For the audition, I sang Ode to the Red Plum and performed a dance excerpt from Ode to Yiming. I struck a concluding dance pose, and their eyes lit up with recognition. Teacher Wang smiled warmly and nodded, then said to Deputy Director Li, Deputy Director Li, yes, it's her, I remember clearly. This girl has a good voice, clear and resilient, though she was a bit nervous at the time. Her dancing has a certain spirited quality. Although her technique isn't top tier, it can still be refined. She's a very promising child, especially her eyes. They're quite distinctive. I remember being quite impressed at the time. Teacher Zhao added, her ankle strength is particularly good, Deputy Head Lee's stern expression softened. So you really are Chen Jianing. In that case, he weighed the telegram in his hand, his brow furrowing once more. The telegram was delivered by the telegraph office, so there's no possibility that someone on our end could have orchestrated this, so I want to report it to the Public Security Bureau and ask them to investigate thoroughly. Deputy Regimental Commander Lee's gaze fell on me again, this time with a hint of complexity. Are you sure? If I hadn't come in person, the cultural troupe would have likely believed the content of this inexplicable telegram and cooperated with the other party's claims, right? Deputy Regimental Commander Lee nodded. Exactly, but if we open this door, won't everyone be able to do the same in the future, trading a formal position in a cultural troupe for an out-of-town non-staff clerical role, with no way to confirm if it's the same person? If this goes on, Deputy Regimental Commander Lee's face had completely darkened. He clenched the telegram in his hand. I will report this matter immediately and send official letters to various departments in the name of the troop. I want to see who is so audacious. How dare they use official documents to seriously slander the candidates our troop has admitted. He had the person in charge handle the formalities for me, then stormed off angrily with the telegram. With that statement, I quickly received my own documents. The person in charge then took me to collect bedding and daily necessities, and personally escorted me to the dormitory. Standing in my own dormitory, I let out a long sigh of relief. This time, I will take control of my own life. However, I never expected to see them again. On the second day of my official training, I was once again summoned to Deputy Commander Lee's office. My father stood there with his hands behind his back, his posture straight and his military uniform solemn. My mother, with tears in her eyes, held Chen Mena in front of Deputy Regimental Commander Lee. Regimental Commander Lee, our child worked so hard to pass the exam. How can you just give the position to someone else? What will happen to our child who has practiced for so many years? Chen Mena timely raised her tear-streaked face and looked at Deputy Regimental Commander Lee. Her lips trembled, and her voice was as faint as a mosquito's hum. Regimental Commander, I should be the one reporting for duty. I worked so hard to pass the exam. After speaking, she quickly lowered her head again, her shoulders trembling as she sobbed even more intensely, as if she had suffered an immense injustice. Comrade, we have already gained a preliminary understanding of this matter, Deputy Regimental Commander Lee said sternly. The recruitment and admission process follows strict procedures and file verification. Files can be falsified too, my mother urgently interrupted. She turned and saw me, pulling me over abruptly. Regimental Commander Lee, look at these two children, just look at them. She pointed at Chen Mena. This is our Jianing, quiet and well-behaved since childhood, obedient and sensible, good at dancing and singing. She's truly the material for a cultural troupe. Then she suddenly pointed at me, her tone full of disgust. Now look at her, clumsy hands and feet, wild by nature. How could she possibly look like someone fit for the stage? How could she ever pass the cultural troupe exam? She must have used some underhanded trick, swapping identities. Chen Mena gently tugged at my mother's arm, pleading tearfully, Mom, don't say that. Maybe she didn't mean it. She might have just been confused for a moment. My good girl, you're just too kind-hearted. My mother hugged Chen Mena sympathetically. She treated you like that, stole your life, and you're still speaking up for her. Leader, listen to this. This is the kind of heart a good child should have. And that one is nothing but an ungrateful wretch, after all the kindness our Jianing showed her. She actually stole Jianing's admission letter when we weren't looking. As she spoke, she glared at me with her eyes. If you have any conscience left, admit it yourself and return the spot to Jianing. We can let it go and not hold it against you. I looked at my mother's face, twisted by obsession, and then at Chen Mena nestled in her arms. Mom, you child, how can you start claiming kinship at such a young age? How can you be so shameless? Who on earth taught you this? Be careful, or your parents might hear and disown you from now on. She performed with such great effort, yet I almost burst out laughing. Time turns, seas change into mulberry fields. I am no longer the pitiful creature from my past life, who was easily manipulated by them for the sake of a little familial affection. Perfect parents who casually treat an outsider as their own daughter while neglecting their biological child don't deserve to be my parents either. My mother looked at me in shock. My father, who had been letting my mother and Chen Mena carry on without saying a word, suddenly darkened his expression. Don't you agree, Deputy Commander Chen? I asked. His expression grew even more unpleasant. the muscles on his scarred face twitching uncontrollably. He seemed to have reached the peak of his anger. Deputy Regimental Commander Lee's expression was also grim. They had seen parents who shielded their children, but never ones who twisted the truth so blatantly and even disowned their own flesh and blood. Comrade Chen, Deputy Regimental Commander Lee suppressed his anger, his voice stern. We have verified once again that Comrade Chen Jennings' political review materials, the photo on her recruitment file, as well as the handwriting and on-site performance records she left during the League admission test, all match Comrade Chen Jennings here perfectly. She was admitted through proper and rigorous procedures. Deputy Regimental Commander Lee, you can't put it that way. My father finally spoke, his tone cold. You can know a person's face, but not their heart. My daughter was her classmate. She often came to our house to play and also took part in this recruitment exam, but she was eliminated in the first round. I just never expected her to be so unscrupulous, daring enough to steal the admission letter and impersonate my daughter. Your insistence on admitting her. Is there some connection we don't know about? I need a reasonable explanation, otherwise, I won't rule out reporting this to higher authorities. The other people in the group who had come over upon hearing the news exchanged glances, all stunned by this family's unreasonable and brazenly deceptive behavior. My mother suddenly threw herself over and knelt at my feet. Child, we've never treated you poorly. How could you do such a thing? Our Jenning is now crying at home every day, her future ruined by you. I beg you, please return the admission letter to us. Teacher Wang and Teacher Zhao were so angry their faces turned pale. It's truly strange how things work in this world. I used to often see how other parents doted on their children and helped them stand up to outsiders, but when it comes to me, what I've seen the most is how my own parents help other people's children take what rightfully belongs to their own daughter. Mother's face changed, and she looked over, her entire body stiff. Chen Weigua even more angrily roared. What nonsense are you talking? That's because Chen Meina's parents died. Chen Meina is an orphan. Chen Meina is pitiful. Before he could finish, I directly repeated the words he used to say every day. I stood next to Deputy Commander Lee and said, Deputy Commander Lee, allow me to reintroduce you. This is Comrade Chen Weigua, the Deputy Commander of the Haiqing Military District, my biological father. This is my mother, and this one. I pointed at Chen Meina. She is the heroic orphan they adopted. Chen Meina. The onlookers let out a collective ah, staring in astonishment at the three of them. Chen Weigua's face turned ashen, and he pulled out a whip from somewhere, lashing it directly toward me. I ducked directly to avoid the whip, causing him to nearly strike Deputy Commander Lee. Don't be so quick to get angry, Deputy Commander Chen. I took a step back, pulled an envelope from the old satchel I always carried with me, and handed it directly to Deputy Commander Lee. Captain Lee, in order not to cause any trouble for the cultural troop, I am ready to step down at any time. However, I believe you and the other leaders still need to have a more comprehensive understanding of certain individuals. Deputy Regimental Commander Lee solemnly accepted it. After pulling out the paper inside, his expression changed with just one glance. Those were several copies of transcribed files summaries and a photocopy of a situation statement stamped with the official seal of a remote commune. It is clearly recorded above that Chen Meina's biological grandfather, Chen Dafu, was once a mountain bandit who killed many soldiers during the war. Later, the authorities launched a bandit suppression campaign, and he abandoned his accomplices, quietly sneaking back home. This is what I heard from the old party secretary after I died in my previous life, when my soul was wandering around the village and he was drunk. On the day I left this life, I secretly sent a letter to Nanshan village in Chen Weigua's tone, requesting their assistance in the investigation. I exhausted all my efforts to finally obtain these written pieces of evidence. Deputy Regimental Commander Lee flipped through them, his expression growing increasingly grave. Political vetting issues are always of great importance, no matter the time. After he finished reading, I handed over the other envelope. This is the truth about the deaths of Chen Meina's biological parents. Her father did not sacrifice himself. Instead, he abused his position to maintain an improper relationship with a married woman, which was discovered by her mother. The two engaged in a fierce argument and physical struggle, ultimately stabbing each other with knives, leading to their deaths. However, Chen Meina was portrayed as the orphan of a hero. The person who orchestrated this must have had ulterior motives, and whether there are hidden, undisclosed intentions requires further investigation by the organization. You're talking nonsense. My father's expression changed. Abruptly, he stepped forward to snatch the envelope but was stopped by the instructor beside him. My mother also screamed, Chen Jianing, have you gone mad? How could you slander your uncle and aunt like this? They are. I turned my head sharply. now you remember to call me Chen Jianing." They suddenly froze, their eyes filled with astonishment. Deputy Regimental Commander Li and the others were well aware of what had happened, yet they couldn't help but feel increasingly speechless. "You care about your reputation, afraid of being criticized for adopting Chen Mena and then treating her poorly. I can tolerate minor issues in daily life, but I cannot agree with you using my life to build your image of being righteous, selfless, and compassionate. Chen Jianing, I am your father, how dare you defy me?" Chen Weiguo was furious and swung the whip toward me again. His move was too sudden and too fast. Just as I thought I would be struck by the whip, my body was abruptly pulled back several steps. "Enough!" Deputy Regimental Commander Li shouted angrily. "Deputy Commander Chen, if you want to discipline your child, go back to your own home. This is the cultural troop, not a place for you to vent your personal anger. I will not allow anyone to harm my members here." He pointed at the two pieces of evidence. "I will report this matter truthfully." Deputy Commander Chen, who tried to swap the real for the fake, should think about how to explain it to his superiors. "They are all my children, I can send whomever I want," Chen Weiguo said with hatred in his voice. His gaze was heavy as he stared intently at Deputy Commander Li. "Deputy Commander Li, are you sure you want to oppose me?" My heart sank, and I instinctively looked at Deputy Commander Li. "A higher official can crush you to death." Although Chen Weiguo was not Li Changming's direct superior, after all, Chen Weiguo was in charge of troops. Unexpectedly, Deputy Commander Li merely raised his chin and said, "Is Deputy Commander Chen planning to abuse his power for personal gain?" "You, what abuse of power? The spot is ours anyway. Does it matter which daughter goes? We just think Nana is in poor health and needs a less demanding job. What's wrong with that?" My mother started crying and shouting again. She rushed over and grabbed me. "Jianing, you and Nana are closer than real sisters. She's always been so good to you. Why can't you just give in to her? Has your conscience been completely eaten by dogs?" I pushed her away sharply. Real sisters and other families show mutual respect and support each other. Chen Mena is clearly older than me, yet she insists on acting submissive and pitiful. On the very first day she arrived, she took my room. The next day, she took all my clothes and shoes. For over 10 years living in this house, I haven't had a single day without swallowing my anger. Now, you clearly know I got into the cultural troop. My younger brother is still a child and in school, so there's no need for anyone to go to the countryside, yet, just to show off your great selflessness, you drugged me and threw me onto the bus heading to the countryside, letting Chen Mena take my place, and allowing her to steal my position as a clerical worker in the cultural troop. I'd also like to ask, have your consciences been eaten by dogs? Are you even fit to be parents, bastard?" Chen Weiguo roared angrily again. "Who taught you to speak to your parents like that?" He pointed the whip at me. "Chen Jianing, if you don't give up the spot, you won't be coming home anymore. I don't have an unfilial daughter like you, calling a deer a horse, seizing by force, abusing power for personal gain. I don't have a father like you either." The office was as silent as death. Everyone was stunned by this piercing question. Finally, it was actually my mom who reacted first. "Jianing, you don't want to come home anymore. How can you talk to your dad like that?" Her eyes were red, and she seemed somewhat heartbroken. I calmly retorted, "Do I have a home? Where am I your daughter? I should be your slave instead. Usually, I work like an ox or a horse for you, and at critical moments, I have to burn myself out, like a candle turning to ashes, without being allowed to have even the slightest complaint." "No, that's not it." My mother shook her head, wanting to say something, but then she thought of Chen Mena and glanced at her quickly. Why can't you understand? You are our biological daughter. So what if you suffer a little injustice? Your father is a high-ranking official, with so many people watching. If we don't treat Mena well, won't that invite criticism? So I have to sacrifice my entire life for the sake of your pride?" This time, my mother was left speechless. However, she still looked at me with eyes full of disappointment, as if failing to meet their expectations was the greatest sin. Chen Mena suddenly rushed over to support my mother, her eyes filled with tears. "Mom, I don't want it anymore. I'll go to the countryside. Please don't argue with my sister anymore. Don't let me, an outsider, ruin your relationship with her. Mind your own business." Chen Weiguo shouted angrily. He pulled Chen Mena behind him and pointed the whip at me. "I never thought that after raising you all this time, I'd end up with an ungrateful wolf. I'll ask you one last time. Will you step aside or not? Dream on." In the end, the three of them were directly ordered out by Deputy Commander Li. At the same time, he reported the matter up the chain of command. Under the sympathetic and helpless gazes of everyone, I returned to the training room to continue my practice, but I never expected that as soon as I returned to my dorm, there would be a knock at the door. As soon as I opened the door, my mother's finger jabbed at my forehead. Chen Jianing, oh Chen Jianing, you really have some nerve, you've grown your wings and now you don't even want your family anymore. Are you trying to drive us to our graves? She lashed out, her voice kept low. Can't you try to understand our difficulties? Mena is so pitiful, both her parents are gone, and she has no family left in this world. What's wrong with you? You've become so heartless. I opened the lunchbox and started eating on my own. She has no parents, but do I have any? Do you think we're dead? My mother asked in disbelief. Whether you're alive or dead, does it make any difference to me? You have to give away the things you like, and you can never eat the food you crave. Are you really my parents? She was left speechless by my words, her face turning pale, her chest heaving violently, and she gritted her teeth, saying, that's because you're our own flesh and blood. So, just because I'm your own flesh and blood, I have to be exploited by you. I'd rather not be. You, perhaps pushed to the brink of anger, tears suddenly streamed down her face. How could I have given birth to such a cold-hearted, ungrateful child? Was it easy for us to raise you all these years? I looked at her face, twisted with anger and selfishness, and completely lost the desire to continue the conversation. Are you done? I need to rest. Oh, your father has already contacted the newspaper. He said if you refuse to give up the spot, he will publish a formal statement tomorrow, severing all father-daughter ties with you. From then on, you will no longer be a member of our Chen family, without your family background. Let's see how you manage to stay in the cultural troupe. I watched her quietly, feeling an oddly serene calmness in my heart. Even a slight urge to laugh, cutting off ties, how could they even think of that? Do as you please. From now on, I will never give up what rightfully belongs to me. Seeing that I showed no reaction, neither panic nor pleading, my mother was stunned once again, and a wave of anger surged within her at being completely ignored. What kind of attitude is this? Your father has published a notice in the newspaper. You'll be pointed at and called unfilial by everyone. You'll become a rootless bastard. See who will ever respect you. That's just fine. I finally spoke, my voice calm and steady. Please make sure to clearly state the reason in the newspaper notice. It's because you, in order to protect your adopted daughter, falsely accused your biological daughter of stealing her admission letter, and when that failed, you angrily cut ties. That way, everyone will know the whole story. You'll get your retribution. Chen Jianing, treating your parents like this, you'll be struck by lightning. With that final venomous curse, she turned and stormed away. The next day, I deliberately bought a newspaper and actually saw a statement from the Chen Weiguo family severing ties with me in one of the sections. I rolled my eyes and casually tossed the newspaper into the bathroom, planning to use it for wiping, trying to use this to control me. They must have overestimated their importance in my heart. Others in the group also noticed this announcement, and while no one said much, they became increasingly warm and friendly toward me in daily interactions. As someone from out of town, I was often invited by the sisters in the group to go out and have fun together. Soon enough, I settled in. The investigation results came out quickly. Chen Weiguo's abuse of power, indulgence of family members in false accusations, and attempts to interfere with regular recruitment procedures are clear facts, constituting a serious violation of military discipline. At the same time, his adopted daughter, Chen Mena, has a sensitive background and unclear intentions. He was stripped of all positions and demoted to the lowest rank. Considering the impact and the need for education and rehabilitation, no further criminal liability was pursued. However, the entire family was sent to the most remote rural area for labor reform to reflect on their mistakes. That statement of severing ties, which he demanded to be published, became my talisman. The organization determined that I had drawn a clear line with them and was the victim in this incident, so I was not implicated and was allowed to remain in the cultural troupe. However, not long after, I heard the news that during the relocation, Chen Mena took advantage of her family's exhaustion and stole the last bit of money they had, slipping away quietly. My parents, who had been basking in the glory of being good people all these years, were left dumbfounded. They finally gained a completely new understanding of Chen Mena. However, without money, they still had to set out on the road again. After a long period of bumpy and arduous travel, they finally arrived at that remote mountain village. There was no so-called resettlement site. What greeted them was a cowshed even more dilapidated than the one from my previous life. Spider webs were everywhere. They had to clean up by themselves and earn work points through their own labor. They were truly destitute, with nothing but bare walls in their homes. Additionally, they had to face heavy physical labor. The younger brother had been pampered since childhood and had never endured such hardship. On the first day of living in the drafty cowshed, he broke down. He pointed at Chinwagwa and his wife, shouting angrily, "It's all your fault, you've lost your minds, you had to spoil that Chenmena. Now look, the whole family is ruined because of her. Instead of being a commander, you become prisoners. And now we have to live in a cowshed. I hate you." Life in labor reform was monotonous and arduous. My parents initially tried to maintain their old airs, but reality is the sharpest butcher's knife. Faced with the temptation of work points and food, they had no choice but to lower their heads. Not long after, I received a letter from them. They told me about their difficult life, how my younger brother was being unreasonable, and asked me to think of a way to help them return to the city. For the sake of our past relationship, I didn't reply. Soon, I received a second letter. This time, they actually hinted that since the art troupe had frequent contact with leaders, I should be more flexible and find ways to get close to some leaders, using my own advantages to plead for their release. I suddenly felt a wave of nausea, almost vomiting up the previous night's meal. The last shred of pity I had for them vanished completely. I did not hesitate at all and handed these letters over to the organization exactly as they were, attempting to corrupt and coerce active duty military personnel, inciting improper conduct. The management of their labor reform camp was immediately upgraded, their labor tasks doubled, and inspections became stricter. My younger brother went completely mad. After being severely criticized for slacking off, he vented all his anger on our father. Amidst the argument, the two of them actually started fighting. No one expected that Chinwagwa would suddenly collapse. The younger brother, now 15 years old, had been pampered by them all these years, eating and drinking well, and was strong and robust. With a forceful push, he actually sent Chinwagwa crashing into a nail on the wall of the cowshed. Chinwagwa died on the spot. My mother witnessed her husband being brutally killed by her own son, let out a scream, and fainted on the spot. After waking up, she fell seriously ill and never recovered, lying all day on the damp straw bedding in the cowshed, barely clinging to life. My brother, perhaps fearing that someone would report him to the police and he would be punished, took advantage of the cover of night and ran away. When the villagers realized something was wrong and came looking, Chinwagwa was still nailed to the wall. They had no choice but to help with the funeral arrangements. My mother completely lost her mind, spending her days in a daze inside the cowshed. The villagers occasionally brought her some food, but life was tough, and they could only barely manage to keep her from starving. Even so, a few months later, she still breathed her last breath alone in the cold cowshed. I only learned about these things later when the organization came to talk to me. I listened quietly, and to my surprise, I felt nothing in my heart. Perhaps, in my heart, they had long ceased to be my family. I devoted all my time and energy to training and performances. Over the years, through my own efforts, I became a key member of the cultural troupe. I became the lead dancer and main performer, frequently appearing on various stages. During an important morale-boosting performance tour, I unexpectedly ran into a childhood friend who had also lived in the same compound. She's already married and went to join her husband in the military. While catching up, she suddenly lowered her voice and said to me, "Jenning, did you know that Chenmena, who used to live with your family, is gone?" I paused slightly. "Is that so?" "Exactly, but I only just heard about it. She stole your parents' money and didn't get far at all. On the train, she flaunted her wealth and was targeted by someone. Not long after getting off the train, in a small alley near the station, I was robbed and stabbed several times. I couldn't keep the money, and I lost my life too. When they found me, I was already stiff." She shook her head with a sigh. "It's all retribution. Who told her to treat you like that back then?" I laughed, slowly reaching out to catch a snowflake. Who could say it wasn't true? All evil should be repaid in the same way upon oneself. That's only fair, isn't it? After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.